guys, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about drawing inferences from explicit details in our text. So our objective today is the students will be able to quote from a text when drawing inferences. So why is it important to know how to effectively draw inferences or draw conclusions from our text? Well, sometimes, as you can see here, sometimes we have to read between the lines, which also means inferring, in order to gain full understanding of whatever it is we're reading. Sometimes the author does not give us explicit reasons as to why something might be happening. We have to infer based on his explicit details or the feelings that he makes us feel when we're reading. So that's why it's important to be able to draw conclusions or make inferences based on explicit details in order to gain the full understanding of what it is the author wants you to know. So today we are going to practice that. I have a little short passage here that I'm going to read to you. And while I'm reading, I just want you to listen. We're going to fill out this chart. I have a Making Inferences anchor chart. And on this side, we're going to write down what the text says. So we're going to be, finding words or something that we know that is explicitly in the text. Then we're going to say what we know about this. And then we're going to make our inferences over here. So right now, I just want you to listen. And then we'll fill out the chart. The bell rang and Judy stood slowly from her seat. She was dreading the quietness of her house as she approached it walking home from the bus stop. Biscuit would always be there wagging his tail, eagerly waiting for her to throw his ball. But now the silence was deafening to her. So what we're going to do is we're going to list over here certain things, or at least one thing that the text says explicitly. And I think I'm going to choose, let's see here, she was dreading the quietness as one. Dreading the quietness. It also says Biscuit would always be there. It also says the silence was deafening. All right, so these are a few lines or a couple of, words and lines from the text that were explicitly from the text. So what do we know about this? When you're dreading the quietness, what do we know about dreading the quietness? It means we don't like it, right? So I'm going to write, don't like the quiet. Okay. What do we know about Biscuit would always be there? Would, that's past tense, right? So Biscuit, if we're talking about Biscuit in past tense, that he would always be there, it's kind of safe to say that he may not be there now. But we're just going to write that Biscuit would always be there is past tense. All right. And then the silence was deafening. That means she doesn't like the silence. Or she misses noise. All right. Misses noise and doesn't like silence. Okay, so what can we infer? To me, after we look at these two, I think it's safe to say that Biscuit probably has passed away and she's really sad about that. So I'm going to write Biscuit was her dog. That could be another thing we write over here because it doesn't say that Biscuit was her dog, but it does say Biscuit would always be there wagging his tail. So you could say what the text says, wagging his tail. What do we know about that? Typically, dogs wag their tail. So what can we infer? Biscuit was her dog. Biscuit was her dog that passed away, and she is sad. All right. So there's one inference using that information from the text and what we know about that information. So that's how we're going to use this chart. So now moving on, I'm going to introduce you to a new poem. It's called January by John Updike. And I'm going to read this poem to you, and then we're going to practice this one more time before I send you off to do your Reader's Workshop work. The days are short, the sun a spark, hung thin between the dark and dark. Fat, snowy footsteps track the floor. Milk bottles burst outside the door. The river is a frozen place, held still beneath the trees of lace. The sky is low, the wind is gray, the radiator purrs all day. So I'm going to take one line from this text, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to do the very first line. The days are short. And I'm going to write that over here because that is what is explicitly said in the text. The days are short. Now, what do we know about the days being short? We know that typically that happens when daylight savings time has ended. So I'm going to write daylight savings time. Because we know in the summertime when the days are longer, it's during daylight savings time. So daylight savings time has probably ended if the days are short. Well, what can we infer if daylight savings time has ended? We can infer that it is winter time in this poem. So we can infer that it is winter time. Does it say that it's winter time? No. But we can safely infer that based on that one line in the poem. So now what you're going to do is you each have a copy of this in your Google Drive. So you're going to reread this with your reading buddy in Reader's Workshop. And I want you to make at least 3 more inferences filling out this chart. So you're going to copy this chart into your Reader's Workshop journal. You're just like it says, what the text says, what I know about this, and what I infer. And you have to fill out all 3 parts for each inference that you make. Because we're going to be practicing finding explicit details in order to draw our inferences. So you need at least 3 more. I would like you to do at least 1 from each stanza, from the other 3 stanzas. But if not, if you find comfort in doing other lines, that's fine too. So that's what you're going to work on next. If you finish early, or for any of my early finishers, I want you to try to write a 5th stanza to this poem. And I want you to practice inferencing from the author's standpoint. So you're going to try to write a 5th stanza, and I want you to write it in a way where the reader has to infer something about what you're writing. So an example might be if you want the reader to infer that you love the red cardinals you see against the white snow in the wintertime. You may say, I see red flutters in between the bare trees. So the reader would say, okay, the text says red flutters in between the bare trees. What I know about this is that cardinals are red. Cardinal is a bird, and birds flutter their wings, and birds also fly in between trees. So I know that. So what can I infer? That the author loves watching the red cardinals in the wintertime. So that's just an example. So I want you to practice that once you finish early making your inferences. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have fun with it. At the end of Reader's Workshop, we will come together and we're going to talk about the inferences you made based on the stanza. And if anybody gets to the 5th stanza, I would love for us to be able to share that as a whole group. So thank you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.